moment. So we're about to get ready now. So if you're with us live on Facebook, please do send us your love by sharing your hearts and connecting other people into the conversation so we can expand the reach here. And if you're watching for the first time, this is Elevate Live. What we are doing here is bringing daily content to you to keep you inspired, to keep you educated, giving you access to personal growth content, well-being, finance, business, spirituality, live workouts, meditations, yoga classes, really to retain that sense of normality within all the chaos in this new way of normal. So this is one of our special sessions that we've got here for live as a live interview. So please now give a warm welcome to Paul Clark. Paul and I have known each other now for, I've lost track of how long we know each other, at least 5 years. and it's a real pleasure to bring him here. You know, he's been on a real journey. It's really been a pleasure to watch his journey unfold. In fact, I remember, Paul, when you and I sat in a cafe in Bristol when you just left your career behind, starting your business, writing your book. And, you know, the vision was unfolding and you've done an amazing job with your business. You know, not only are you here speaking about spirituality and mental health, but, you know, you have your own business, you have your own brick and mortar business out there in the quote unquote real world, you know, going through all of this as we all are. But today we're going to have some really fascinating discussions around conscious awareness. So a big welcome once more. I'm really looking forward to speaking with you. So welcome once again to Elevate Live.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, no, is it 5 years? I feel like it's been a lot longer than that.
Maybe it has. I've lost track of time.
You're just too busy, mate. It's good to be here, mate, and I really appreciate it. And I'm excited because, you know, what I think you're doing, just as a side note, what you're doing with this is absolutely fantastic. You know, we need a content platform that's going to help shape what is a more transcendent future for our awareness of how to live better lives. You know, that's what life's all about, right? We're trying to make the most out of the very short time, unfortunately, that we do have in the physical world, and enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? Just be happy, and it is possible.
Excellent. So absolutely right, and thank you for that. It's very kind of you to say. You know, we've been putting a lot of work into this to make this happen, and you know, bringing great people like yourself on to share amazing content is what it's all about. You know, together I believe we can elevate humanity. This isn't just about navigating this virus thing. This is actually about life and how we can together transform global consciousness, how together we can make a difference in the world, how together we can rise up and become our own best selves and become the leader that we were born to be. So Paul, I know that you were with us recently and you shared a little bit about your backstory and your own journey. Would you mind just sharing, you know, some insights around what led you on the path of discovering a lot of the content that you're about to speak about tonight, this afternoon?
Yeah, I mean, we could be here for hours, but I'll try and do a bite-sized bit for you. I mean, you know, people all have their stories, right? And that's all it is. It's just a story. But that story can condition and it can frame, you know, how we live our lives, if not managed correctly. So in short term, you know, it's much like everybody else. I'm sure we've got our stories and those benchmarks in our lives, in that timeline that determined what direction we take in our lives. And that can be through the experiences that we encounter, from when we're a child to when we're, you know, when I'm 35 years old now. Jesus, 35 years old. Let's go quick. Old man. So yeah, it's just what I didn't get, you know, and I turned to, you know, I think, you know, when it comes to alcohol, anybody can drink if they want to drink. It's socially normal to drink alcohol. You know, in fact, when I was a young man, you know, that was all I looked forward to from the age of like 13 to 15. You know, it's like when we get to 18, I can't wait because I can go and drink. You know, I started drinking 3 years prior to actually being legally allowed to drink. You know, a lot of youngsters these days do, you know, because we've put a label on that, you know, unfortunately, this drinking is fun. It's an adult thing to do. When we get to 18 and we can drink, we're adults. We can do what we want. And, you know, I don't think it's anybody's responsibility necessarily to tell us that we can't do that. And as youngsters, we probably rebel if we're told not to do something. We go, well, no, screw it, I'm going to do it. So, you know, I think there is a perception when we're young on, or maybe not enough through education on when we get to that age of 17, 18, what do we do with our lives? How are we supposed to be responsible? How are we supposed to live our lives more effectively? We were chatting about this with the other lad, Jay, university. University is how many people generally go there to study and learn stuff, doctors, people that really come out with a qualification. Now, I know people that just go for the sake of actually being able to go and party because they've been locked up with their parents to the age of 17, 18. And it's an opportunity, and we're creating those wrong behaviors. So my journey and my story was, from a young age, I just don't think, I'm trying not to label it as did I get it wrong or right, because I'm trying to come away from, as a deeply spiritual person, what I'm trying to educate people on is that there is no wrong or right. It's all just experience. It's just one and the same. We label it wrong or right. How do we justify wrong or right? Because everything is man-made. We're all self-creators of what is the illusion of our own virtual realities. And we're labeling things, and that's determining and conditioning which way we go. So, I wouldn't say I got it wrong, but I'd say the experiences that I had, I didn't manage correctly. I didn't actually see the opportunity to grow as a human being. I didn't understand that life was about growth and development and understanding and remembering why we're having this experience in which we call life. And that's not deep and meaningful. And some people have said, what you say sounds like a load of old weapons grade waffle. But actually, and a few years ago, before I started practicing spiritualism, meditation, mindfulness, I didn't get it. I didn't get what this journey was all about. So, I drank a lot. I wouldn't say I was an alcoholic or a drug addict, dependent drug addict or anything. I never used, we say hard drugs, again, a man construct. What determines a hard drug comparison to alcohol, which is a drug? They're all on the spectrum, and they all cause us to act differently. What are we trying to escape as a means to using those? What are we trying to hide? Where are we trying to get to? Are we getting there at all? And that was the thing. It was actually become obsessive to kind of not be getting anywhere, but living for the weekend. And that was my life, 5 days a week, working on a sales floor, pitching hard, and, old boiler room style, hitting the phones. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But then when it got to the weekend, it was just party time. And, then those party times started to create, from 1 day to 2 to 3 to 4. And then, just getting through the weeks. That's no way to live your life. And I lived that life for a long time, long time. I started really coming to terms when things started to affect my life, when it started to affect my health, my relationships, my family, my experiences. It was all about that. That's no way to live, stuck in that bubble of party, objective partying based on fear, anxiety, depression, things not going my way. And what it all comes down to is being able to live life on life's terms effectively, being able to really understand how to live life day by day, one day at a time on life's terms. And so through, I made a lot of mistakes, again, I've got to be careful. I'm trying not to brand things. Is it a mistake, or is it just experience? It's an experience which has led me to where I am right now, which I've been sober now from alcohol for over 8 months, nearly 9 months. And, I work a step program because it works for me. It's given me deep underlying spiritual principles that have helped me to recover. And it's also opened my eyes and opened the journey up. I've got so much opportunity as a means of understanding the spiritual principles and structures and the formalities that help me grow as a person. And that is powerful, powerful stuff. And you know what the beauty of it is? We've all got access to it. We all have an unlimited access to these powers, to these structures, to these formalities that can help us transform our world, the way we act, believe, see, love, and interact with one another. So that is why I'm so public about what's happened. And I've come away from where I could say to you, when I was 15, I drank too much. So this happened when I was a kid, blah, blah, blah. Blame, blame, blame. But it wouldn't have brought me to the destination that I am now in teaching people the things that I've learned.
Powerful. And Paul, I think that's a very mature way to reflect upon it. And I really love the way you're considered in terms of how you label things as an experience, because the more negative meaning you give to something, that's what it becomes, right? So the fact you can look at it and actually see it for what it is, and the fact that it's always on the way to something. And, you know, if those things hadn't happened, you perhaps wouldn't be doing what you're doing now to help so many other people with what you're doing. So it's very difficult to know what's a mistake or an experience. And I love the way you looked at that. So tell us a little bit now then, in terms of from the experience that you've been through, what are some of the things that now have changed for you? You know, how has life changed for you as a result of making some of those decisions? And what are some of those daily practices that you engage in to support your journey?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think that the one thing that I see now is opportunity. In situations that we determine good and the situations that we determine bad, you know, when things are going well, I investigate what's going well. You know, we spend too much time on I work a lot in safety, and I actually know one of my clients is watching this, and she'll agree, I'm sure. You know, we have a tendency when things go bad to investigate the bad, but when things aren't going so well, we don't actually look at how things are going well. Why are things going well for me? Do we inventory enough on our day-to-day lives, or do we just go about the day-to-day and just hoping that things are going to change, or things are going to get better, or things are going to slow down? I think we relinquish a lot of our control through what is unconscious mindset, or what I learned through mindfulness, and I practice mindfulness-based stress reduction and MBCT, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy, is that we can be on what's called autopilot. So autopilot means that we're not consciously living our lives. You know, we're just doing things, you know, unconsciously competent at just being able to do things. And sometimes we need that, you know. We don't take, you know, for me to pick up this pen, I don't need to put too much information into, am I going to pick up that pen? Why am I going to pick up that pen? Is that the right thing to do? But we just have to use autopilot as a means to get around, you know. That's what we do as humans. But actually, with our decision making, when we open up that field of consciousness, and when we start to open up our awareness, things start to happen. Things that we were unclear on and we weren't able to notice before due to unconscious autopilot 24/7. You know, we'd have gaps in that unconscious autopilot and go, oh, this feels good. You ever caught yourself just daydreaming, looking out the window? Something's caught your attention and you're just taking in the colors of the sky, you know, a bird in flight, you know, all these things that we go, what a hippie thing to say, but are actually the beauty of things that we don't notice from a day-to-day time. And when things aren't going as well as perhaps we think they should be based on our own objective thinking and the way that we see our lives in our minds, or our ego sees us becoming, we start to throw our toys out of the pram, but we're not taking in the finer juices and the finer details of what we have as an opportunity in life to see. So to answer your question, conscious awareness, better relationships, a more in tune understanding and presentism of what life is as a journey. And because you ever get that feel, have you ever had that moment where you sat and go to yourself, oh, what's this about? What's life all about? And you shudder, you kind of cringe, go, oh, I feel a bit weird. I just had it then. But that's actually us tapping into the realities of this journey. It's us actually tapping in, but the reason why we shudder with fear is because we're so connected to this damn story. You know, the story, which actually I think it was Eckhart Tolle said, you know, life isn't as scary or serious as the mind makes out to be. It really isn't. When you start to really come to terms with that, when you really start to understand that, things just become a lot easier. You know, and that ties in the other thing as well to your question. What have I learned? Living a day at a time. Presentism. You know, Eckhart Tolle's Power Now was just it was a game changer for me, Dan, to be honest, because it made me, I was a master of living in the history book. Why can't things be like they were 2 days ago? Oh, remember that time that I was really successful? Or, you know, when you've given money to a homeless guy and you think 2 years down the line, you remember when I did that? I gave a $5 to a homeless guy. Why am I not seeing the rewards of that right now? We're masters of living in the past, craving for things to be different. And also, we can play, movie reels of how this is going to roll out. Let's take COVID, for example. We don't have facts really right now. The uncertainty is uncertainty. There's always uncertainty. So we're going, oh, the uncertainty of tomorrow. It's always uncertain. Unless you can predict what's happening in the future, we live in a world of uncertainty. That's the way we live our lives. Getting onto first name terms with reality in terms of the bare bones of it, and not what our ego perceives reality to be and what we crave for it to be like. When we actually come to terms with what it actually is and what it actually is like, we have a wealth of opportunity for incremental personal growth and development.
Thanks, Paul. There's so many things I'm going to latch into there to pick up on. Firstly, Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. If you haven't read that, that is a game-changing book. And the interesting thing about that, I read that book for the first time when I was probably 22 years old. But I was not at a level of like my own human evolution to really understand it. There were several books that I read at that point. I read the Tao Te Ching, which is now like such a hugely influential book on me. But back then it just washed over me. So did The Power of Now. There was another book that I was talking about this morning, The Way of the Superior Man. All of these books that I read, I was not ready for them. But interesting enough, when I reread The Power of Now, and it links back to what you said about seeing like the bird in the sky, when I was reading that book for the second time, and then I listened to the audiobook, which was even more powerful because I was walking down the streets, looking at the trees, and as he was talking about that present moment, I could almost see life itself flowing through everything. It was just this powerful moment. So I know that goes back to, oh, it sounds hippie, but actually when you get to the point in your own evolution when you can see life, the life inside of everything, the existence, the spirit, the consciousness, the unknown and the unnamed inside of all, it's just bliss. And that does create that sense of ease. And when you're able to tap into that power of now, it not only does it for me personally instills a sense of inner calm and peace, but it also creates flow and the ability to actually create in a way that is magnificent compared to when you're really trying to force things and you're trying to control the future, because as you say, you can't control the future. So I'm really fascinated by that, and for those of you who haven't read The Power of Now, please do check that out. I want to dip into this piece around conscious awareness, linked to that then. Would you mind just sharing your view on that? What does that mean to you? And describe it in a way that helps people understand how they can experience that. Because for a lot of people, Paul, you and I have done a lot of inner work, and it's brought us on this journey that has enabled us to understand these things. But as I said, there was a time when I was in my 20s, if someone had said what we're talking about now, it would have just gone past me. So my mission now is to try and help more people understand it earlier so we can actually embrace it and take it on board. So what does conscious awareness mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, there's one thing I would say as well that's just come to me at the moment, which involves you, Dan. Actually, I remember when you started one of your businesses, little entrepreneur that you are, and I remember you did a video as you were coming out of the gym, and you had the endorphins going. Everything was, you just come out of the gym and you were taking in the sky and how beautiful the sun was and the feeling on your skin. I remember at that time laughing at that, and I'm going to be honest, because and we're talking 7-8 years ago, laughing at that, thinking, what is this guy on? What is this guy on? You have always been quite connected, and I think that's why you're so passionate about the things that you do, and I'm very grateful to know you and to also understand now what that experience was. You've probably always been consciously aware, and perhaps now, speaking to me and engaging with people in the way that you are with it, Elevate Life, you're going to learn even more. So once you open up that door, it's so fulfilling, and it's like a flood. It really things start to happen, things start to change. That's the thing. We all want change, and sometimes when self-will alone isn't enough, we need to look deeper into what is our spiritual, beneath the bones, behind the meat sack that we ride our lives in. There is a lot more to the detail of energy as we can't see and perceive. We all have to rationalize everything. Humans have to have a reason. This happens because of this. We're so arrogant that there's a lot of stuff that we don't know. When we start to investigate the things that we don't know, we're not looking for answers, you start to find new things. And it comes for you as a feeling of energy rather than an actual, right, here's a rational explanation of what spiritualism is. It's an experience. It's spiritualism, awareness, conscious awareness. It's all an experience. Now, coming back to your question, sorry I ranted on a bit, but I wanted to bring that up because it came to me in the moment. I'm a big believer when things like that happen, you should always act on it. So conscious awareness, when somebody said this to me, being consciously aware, first of all, what is consciousness? I mean, it's all we perceive, see, and do. And consciousness is actually when you drop out of the mind, out of the thinking brain and the acting brain, and you're just aware of everything that you perceive in consciousness. You know, it's everything that you see, feel, hear, and it's the energy in which we all are conceived. Consciousness is one. You know, in the elite parallel universe that we have, everything is connected. When we start to realize that the meat sack that we're in right now isn't just where it ends and where it stops, outside of that, everything in terms of what is created in matter, in terms of physical form, like this table, like my, you know, I can touch myself here, but the actual outside of that consciously is what is energy that holds and binds us all together. Everybody that's listening to this meeting is connected to me right now. Every organ, every cell in our body. It's a hugely expandable, infinite universe of complete collectiveness and connection. And I think when you start to talk that stuff, even then I've got goosebumps on my arms, because it just makes things, I say we're trying to rationalize and explain everything, but it just makes things feel much better, much more okay. Makes me feel like that we're not alone. But conscious awareness is just being consciously aware. Consciousness is awareness looking back at itself. And I know that's really difficult to explain, but I'll give you an example. I started practicing it in meditation. When you are consciously, hang on, let me get this right. When you are consciously aware, but conscious of the fact that you're consciously aware, you start to understand what consciousness is. I know that sounds extremely difficult, but it's just, to put it in really simplistic terms to maybe people that don't understand awareness or consciousness, just being completely aware. And to tap into awareness is to tap into what we've got, a really intuitive system. You know, the brain, the nervous system. We as human beings think the brain is the most powerful machine and it controls all. But actually spiritualism and and consciousness controls all. Brain is just another organ which helps us be able to take consciousness and actually transmit it into reality. So that's the crazy thing, is that our brains aren't the controller, actually consciousness is. And when we're aware of consciousness, we start to get out of our brains into our bodies and into the all. And being aware is just be aware. Being aware, mindfulness is brilliant. I think it was John Kabat-Zinn, back in the 70s, created mindfulness, brought from the Eastern cultures and the Eastern world, brought that over to Western society to give people a program to be able to understand Buddhism, the Buddhist practice of meditation. And it's brilliant. You're just taking, my advice to anybody who wants to become more consciously aware is actually taking time outside of using, screen time, doing anything necessarily that's going to actually take you using your brain, and actually bringing yourself into your senses. So taking 15, 20 minutes, there's loads of different practices you can learn from mindful trainers, the body scan, things like that. But just taking time to, the sensories mindfulness practice is a brilliant way to be able to engage and in tune into sounds, managing and watching your thoughts, as opposed to emerging with them and immersing with your thoughts and then going off on a tangent with hundreds of different thoughts, thinking, and then suddenly projecting yourself in the future. And then that sends you to a past experience, and you're just like this, bringing yourself into the moment presently and just admiring your thoughts and actually giving thanks to yourself that you can experience your thinking patterns, and you start to get a deeper seat in your conscious awareness to the sounds, sights, colors, textures, sensations. You know, the cold thing, it's very cold in my office at the moment. So the cold sensation of the air on my hands, on my skin, that is conscious awareness in its most purest form. To be able to then broaden that conscious awareness comes through practices of meditation, mindfulness, and that's a completely different path altogether. But just being consciously aware starts to give you an opportunity to start to investigate other practices to open those floodgates to a more spiritual based living.
Excellent. And I think we actually live in very blessed times in the sense that a lot of these topics we're talking about now are entering the mainstream discussion. And I know you've done a lot of work in the kind of workplace mental health, but you know, the discussion around mindfulness and meditation is become almost as commonplace as talking about going to the gym or working out. Not quite there, but almost there. But again, I remember during my corporate career, for the most of it, I spent between the age of 21 and 29 years old working in corporate, and the idea, I saw all these things within that world, like mindfulness, meditation. It was all very like hip and esoteric, and I considered myself to be an open-minded kind of person. However, those things evaded me, and it wasn't until I was 29 years old, I'd left my career in banking behind. I went to California, and I made some friends out there, and we were sat on this beautiful beach, like very small beach, white sand, blue skies, just like very gentle lapping waves. And my friends who I was with, a girl called Courtney from Australia and Shetel from Norway. And, I'm a fast talker, I'm intense, I'm energetic, my mind, that noise, that from the future to the past, that was always happening. They said, Dan, don't you ever slow down and just chill for a minute?
Yeah.
Like a pocket rocket. I was like, well, actually I spent the first 21 years of my life being the quietest kid in town. So, I'm making up for time. But there was a message to it, because that's a whole different story about having no inner confidence and self-esteem and all that kind of stuff and having that suppressed. But they said, right, have you ever tried meditation? I was like, nah, not really. And they said, look, you just have to try it. You told me you're open-minded, right? And they challenged me on my own thing. So I was like, okay, all right. So we ended up, they said, okay, let's take you for a quick practice. And I'd never experienced it, never tried, never experienced it. So we sat on this bench on the beach in California. And Courtney on one side, Shetel on the next. And Courtney gave me this visual reference. She said, she said, you've got a sister, right? Did she ever have one of those little ballerina boxes? The little ding, they sing and twirl. I said, she did. She said, well, when you close your eyes, I just want you to imagine your thoughts. And if you get a positive thought that's nice and it's warming, just be with it for a minute, enjoy it, send love to it, and then let it go. If you get something that's distracting or negative or it's causing you concern, then you don't have to ignore it. Just see it going into that box and then shut the box and say, I'll come back to you later. Thanks very much. Goodbye. And she said, after a period of time, just keep doing that, and then just become aware. And I followed the instructions. I closed my eyes. We're swinging away gently on this beach, sun kissing my face and listening to the sound of the oceans. And I had all this beautiful stuff come up, and I was like, yeah, really thinking about my family at home and sending love. And then all this irritating stuff came up. I boxed it all up. But then after time, it was just me and the ocean. And the sun.
Love it.
And the swing of the bench. And I had no idea. My eyes were closed. And eventually I opened my eyes. I looked left and right. And they'd both gone. And you would have thought, two people getting off a bench. You would have thought, I would notice one of them get off. No. And I looked at my watch. It had been 45 minutes. 45 minutes, my first ever meditation experience. And they were gone. I was like, I'm in a strange country. I'm in America. I don't know where I am. couldn't see them. But that was it. I was hooked because I felt something in that moment, that conscious awareness that I'd never, ever, ever truly had. I had glimpses of it, but I hadn't had a one-to-one moment with conscious awareness. And that for me was a changing point in my entire destiny.
Yeah, it's stripping it all back, right? Every day I wake up, the more that I learn. And I read a book a month, maybe even 2 books a month on different things that are recommended to me. And when we start stripping things back, things aren't quite as serious as they may seem, and we're so caught up in the whirlwind of what is a man-made. Everything is man-made. It gets on my nerves. Even like a building, I'm just like, this is man-made. This is a construct. It's not the real depth. It's been created by man. What was created through a higher power, if you believe in that. And everybody has a right to believe in what they want to believe. I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. So I feel like it has energy. I feel like we've been given a platform, we've chose what to do with the platform, and that's what's created in the world that we live in. And when we strip it all back, it is just sounds, sights, sensations, and consciousness. That's it. If you've got rid of everything, we wipe the slate clean, you've just got consciousness. And that's not bullshit. That's genuine. We look for rationalization and explanation on everything that we're going through. But if we strip it all back, in this conversation right now, I bring up the dreaded C word, but we haven't thought about it once. We've taken into a depth of conversation around real life, what is happening, what we have, and what the opportunity is. And the rest of it is just experience. And what we do with experience, that is up to us. But like I've said this to you before, we're a very infant, if you believe, and when, aliens and extraterrestrials and all this. But, if we're one of billions of universes, there's got to be life other places. So, the book that I read on Conversations with God, which is very enlightening, teaches that, there are what they're called hebs, higher evolved beings. We are very infant world. That's why we're getting, and no matter what, we get a lot of stuff wrong, but we're learning, and it's experience. Or we get things wrong, right? We get things right, maybe, because it all leads somewhere. We keep saying it's wrong, but actually what have we learned? It's the same with COVID-19. Yes, it's not the best situation. It is affecting people, but is it something that's going to happen for good? I said this in the chat that we had, that I was looking on Facebook the other day and it popped up something on Brexit. And I was like, geez, that seems like years ago. But we've only just got through it. Yeah. But it's gone. We've moved on we've attached to the next experience, and we've molded with that experience. We've held on to it for dear life, good or bad. Oh, this is bad, this is good, this is bad. Brand, label, because it gives us justification, gives us meaning. But all it actually does is create suffering. If we don't perceive it consciously as this is an experience, and what is the opportunity here? Where is my opportunity? Because this isn't going to last. Thou too shalt pass. Where do I want to be as a result of this? Am I going to now start to break down the physical and man-made constructs that are determining? And unfortunately, not everybody is spiritually grown. Not everybody will learn this. I'm telling you now, whether you don't believe in it now, when you get to the point of passing away and leaving, right, you'll go, I get it. I'll tell you how I get it now. It's over. And on to the next. Buddhism say that you go round and round in circles, all part of the karmic wheel. Whatever. I don't know the answers. The one thing I do know is that I'm remembering all this stuff. I'm not learning it. I'm remembering it. And that's what deja vu is. When you suddenly get, oh, hang on, this has happened before. It's because it has. You're remembering things that we already know, and it's not about learning, it's about remembering. I was going to say something else, but I've lost my train of thought now. But yeah, hopefully that makes sense.
Thank you. And so obviously, we were talking about mindfulness and I shared my story, and that is one tool in bringing us into that kind of present moment and reconnecting with what's going on and everything that is. What other practices, what other tools have you experienced that have helped you, evolve your own consciousness?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, I'm covered in tattoos. I play rugby, and we, again, a man-made construct of what somebody that has tattoos and, plays rugby, bit of a brute, how I'm perceived. You wouldn't think I'm a deeply spiritual character, but I've got embedded and in touch with spiritualism because it's opened so many doors for me outside of what is, again, a man-made construct of a world and virtual reality that we created in this life. So what meditation does for me, so there's two things. I use a chakra-based system. Now I'm studying chakras, which I find fascinating. I think I said this to you before. You know, if you were to go and drive a car without actually having any lessons, you're going to go and crash it. Well, in terms of actually our spiritual understanding, we're running our physical form and our spiritual form without actually any kind of understanding of the spiritual instruction manual. So what the chakra system does, you know, if you work your way up, which I set up from Muladhara, Svadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, Vidishthura, Anya, and Sasharara. If you work through the spiritual chakra system, it basically, you said to me when you were on the beach, you had loads and loads of energy. A lot of us have bags and bags of energy, but we're not using it correctly because we don't understand what that energy source is, how to manage that energy source, how to take that energy source and use it for good, and how to be able to harness that power to be able to create for ourselves what we want our reality to look like. So the chakra system is I'm studying it at the moment. I'm not exactly brilliant at it, but it really does. If you investigate it, it takes a lot of time. Ignore the words that I even struggle to pronounce, but actually get down to the detail of this stuff, and it gives you some really clarity and understanding of how to utilize the energy sources that we have on a daily basis to be able to do good, to be able to manifest our world in how we want it to look like, because a lot of the time we can get stuck in different chakras where our energies are being used in the wrong ways, and that's when, for example, we don't get love when we're using our heart chakra, or for example, you know, we've got a fire burning where we just got bags and bags of energy and we don't know what to do with it, and then we end up doing things, turning to drugs and alcohol as a means to letting off the steam. You know, the chakra system will open up worlds for you in terms of how to live your life more effectively. But the big one for me is meditation. Now, I don't sit there on my ass, I mean my heart out. You know, really, meditation is just about being able to access a full state of consciousness. You know, you've got a sleep, awake, dream, and what is your full state of consciousness, which is meditation. And that full state of consciousness is just complete awareness. It's being in that point outside of being able to, you can see with clarity, you can hear with clarity, you can feel every sensation, you're completely aware of the physical form, you're completely aware of consciousness as you perceive it, and the universal, the absolute infinite space that we just don't, we only see as far as our eyes determine, you know, but actually the further out it is, being aware of that complete infinite space of universal space is an incredible place to be. And we take for granted it because we're just either picking up a book, writing, picking the kids up from school, going to work, trying to pay the bank, bang, 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 bang. All things that we've created, which is putting a lot of pressures on what this is up here. And we're too busy up here for how many hours a day? 10 hours a day up here. The minute I get up, check my phone, do this, do that, blah, 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 blah. Meditation gives you, I only do 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening, but it gives me an opportunity to strip back the artificial world that we live in and get back to a conscious awareness and in touch with my more spiritual understanding of life itself. And when you're there, you can just do the things that we do because we have to live the world that we live in because we've constructed it, we've created it, we wanted it, we've got to live it. But it helps you live it more effectively, with clarity, with lack of understanding, in the fact that it's a paradox. We're not supposed to understand, but we don't understand at the same time, but we're okay with it. I think that's a really nice place to be. So, and meditation gives you that opportunity. One other thing on that I'll just explain for the benefit of perhaps some of the viewers is that this is more of a science-based explanation of how the brain works, but you've got obviously your two sides of the brain. And your right hand side is the one that's right. Come on, Greg. Come on, Dan. Get up, go. We're going to go for a run today. We're going to do this. We're going to make loads of money. We're going to do that. And then the left hand side is the one that's like, hi, Dan. I'm here. And it's like, shut up, left hand side of the brain. I'm not wanting to talk to you right now. It's the more quiet, conserved, analytical side of your brain. but they never work together. They always, one's working and then that shuts off and the other one works. Sometimes people are one-sided, and that's when we get real bad stress, anxiety and depression, because we're not utilizing both sides of the brain. And your corpus callosum, which is in the middle of the two sides of your brain, which connects the two, when you meditate, you light up the corpus callosum and it gets thicker. It makes you more intelligent. It helps you, it lights up both sides of the brain at once. And what it also does is any kind of, when we're 20, by the time we're 21 years old, we've created nearly 20,000 PCCs. That's premature cognitive commitments. So as an example, if you imagine a computer screen, and you've opened, I don't know, 100 different windows, on the internet. And maybe there's something that you don't want the missus to see, and I'm not making anything dodgy. I'm just saying, maybe you're trying to buy a gift for a birthday or something like that, right? And she comes over and she says, look, oh, what are you up to? And you go to type an email and the computer's gone really slow. Well, that's what your brain is like 24/7 without being able to manage through meditation and through mindfulness. Your brain is complete sensory overload. It's overloaded from too much information, too many tasks, too much information 24/7, that it just isn't functioning correctly. So meditation unravels those PCCs. On a daily basis, you have two opportunities to unravel not just the stuff that you're ingesting on a daily basis, but all the past stuff. You can unload all that information. There's, again, coming back to a lot of my problems growing up was I had things that I should have dealt with at the time. And if I had known how to meditate and be mindful, I could consciously practice acceptance with those experiences and let them go. But instead, I just imagine you're in a car and you've wrote the experience down on a piece of paper, you screw it up and just throw it in the back. After a while, all that stuff's going to come forward, and you're going to be flooded, and you're not going to be able to drive the car. So it's about how we unravel those previous experiences. It's about how we manage the experiences that we're going through right now. And meditation and mindful practice. Mindfulness is about tuning into the present here and now. Meditation is about debogging and debogging all the previous experiences and the management of your past in a really effective way. So sorry if I went on, but those are three things that I practice. And the other thing as well that I will add on is picking up literature. There's some fantastic sages of our time, unbelievable people that can help us live our lives more presently, more effectively, and actually we can be happy. I used to get jealous of, you find a guy that's just always happy. Like, how are you happy all the time? Because he's just not connected to the construct of what is our perceived virtual reality and actually embedded into more deeper underlying spiritualism, and that this isn't as serious as we all make it out to be. And we have a choice. We feel like we're completely lost power because everything around us we can't control. We can't control it, but we can control how we perceive it. If we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. I'm going on now, aren't I?
That's very powerful. No, this is what it's all about. My job here in these conversations, and it's been the same on every one, is to open doorways for people to share what matters. And there's a few other points I would like to raise on this one, again, from a personal experience. I think a lot of the labels we give things can be determined through those past experiences. So how we see the world can be shaped, and it's from a very early age, by our families, our friends, our teachers. And it's a point in our life, it's known, it's been studied from psychology, that our paradigm, who we are, is shaped by the time we're 8 to 10 years old, typically, often earlier. So we weren't being consciously aware. It's questioning, is my thought process, what I want to believe here, what I believe about the world and what I choose to see about the world, is this by construct of my own decision, or is it a product of my environment? And what happened for me as a result of that, as I began to challenge some of those patterns of thinking and beliefs that I was holding, that I realized were causing certain limitations in my life, and had to readdress them and change them. That is a pattern that's come up over and over again, and always coming across these mental patterns. I'm thinking, how do I shift them? But what's interesting when one of the examples is my perception of meditation due to other experiences alongside it. The way other people saw it became my view. It wasn't until I became conscious that I started to question, why do I think that? Why do I have that viewpoint? But there's another piece here when you were talking about throwing the paper in the back of the car and just leaving it there for the minute till it suddenly floods you again. I remember, through my own personal development journey and looking at everything that was, potential constraints that I was trying to overcome. Someone once asked, have you ever looked at your past trauma to see if there's anything there? And I said, no, I didn't really have much trauma. I don't really recall any major trauma. But again, it was the label and meaning I attached to trauma, because I was looking for like the car crash level, deep, severe mental trauma, which I'd associated with certain acts and activities that I'd witnessed other people go through. I think, I have nothing of that scale. But actually, our own experiences throughout our life, trauma doesn't have to be a major life-changing incident. It can just be something that you interpreted when you were a child that therefore created a meaning for you that you hold on to. So I rejected the opportunity to look at the paper in the back of the car and think, how do I address some of that? And yes, being present it almost strips it away. But actually, when you turn and look at it and find it's still there, you almost have to confront it and say, what is this, and how do I move past it? So I'm curious to know from your perspective, some of those things that have happened way back in the past that may have influenced us. How do we navigate those things, and how do we make peace with them? How do we find forgiveness, and how do we allow us to let those things go?
Yeah, great question. You've done this before, Dan, haven't you? Trauma is an experience that we've turned away from and just ignored. I said this to somebody before. We've all got the inner roommate, okay, that noise in the back of the head, right, you've got to do this, you've got to do that. And actually, when that, sometimes it will always do the opposite of what we generally, when we're deeply seated and conscious, do the opposite of what we should do. When we the devil and the angel, we do have that. Everybody has it, and we tend to choose. We let this over. That's being too mind controlled. Letting your inner roommate control what's going on in your life, and until you start to separate yourself from consciously, in fact, from the inner roommate, you can start making more conscious decisions. And what we don't realize is, at a young age, there's not many people in our mum and dad's generation, and mums and dads' generation before that, especially in Western culture, that understood spiritualism as an opportunity to manage our lives growing up. So it wasn't like when I had an experience, a family member sat me down and goes, spiritually, you should do this. This is how you manage that. It's just like, right, okay, no worries. I'm going to turn away from it. I'm going to crack on. So it's a bit like the rubbish in the car. What we have to do, and it's a spiritual awakening. Again, I use spiritual as a word. People need to just get comfortable with the word spiritual, or just call it awakening. If you don't feel comfortable, you call it what you will. Again, it's man-made construct. We're calling it something. It's just branded that way. But we need to turn and face, right, the experiences. We need to turn and face them. They might not, we overshoot the mark in terms of how we perceive things to be. We are only in control of the present moment, nothing more. And so when something happens, we have a choice. We have a choice to turn and face it, or we have a choice to bury it. Burying it is not good, because it will only taunt you, bother you. And that's what trauma is. It's because you're not dealing with things presently and consciously with the right attitude, in which spiritual principles can give you the right tools to manage it effectively. We perceive it as good. Ask yourself the question. So, in business, I had some blowouts yesterday. I always have blowouts. 2 in the space of 10 minutes, worth a lot of money. And you know what it's like. You've been in the business. It kills you. When I was younger, I'd just throw my toys out of the pram. Oh, woe is me. The world owes me something. Why can't I get a break? It's not effective use of my time, and it's not going to change anything. But what I can do is I can go, right, okay, and I just say thank you. I just say thank you now. I say it out loud. I go, thank you. And I give thanks because it's an experience. And I immediately accept it. I didn't brand it. I didn't go, oh, this is bad. Oh, this is good. I just went, okay, thank you. And when you get into a conscious, enabled structure of being able to give thanks for anything and everything that you experience, you can start to offload and live life a lot more easy. Because when we say things are bad, yeah, we start to create these behaviors. We letting the inner roommate take control. Oh, well, Paul, you're owed something here. Don't forget it. Oh, well, you should be doing things this way. Oh, well, something else as good's going to happen in the future. You just got to be confident as you stick to the plan and you just live life with some key morals: kindness, compassion, and gratitude. Because we only get one shot at this. And I tell you what, when you get in touch with the finer things like a beautiful sky, or like you said, I love the story, the sound of the ocean, just things that we've taken for granted, that if you had one last day on this earth and you could experience something, would it be those sounds, to the blind man that can't see, to the deaf person that can't hear the sounds of the waves crashing, what he would do to have that opportunity that we take for granted because we're too obsessed about cars, money, drugs, alcohol, going out, partying, it's relationships. We're too obsessed with the things that we think make this inner roommate happy and crave more than the things that perhaps don't. With children, coming back a lot, I lost my trail of thought, but coming back to trying to teach my kids, it's funny because I tried to sit my son down this morning to get him to meditate, and he's just a bundle of energy because he doesn't know how to manage his chakra system. Of course he doesn't, because he's remembering. We're born because we don't actually understand anything, and as he gets older, but how quickly he remembers, that's on me as his father to teach him how to remember these things and to give him the principles of kindness, compassion, gratitude. Live like that and just think to yourself every day, son, how can you give back and how can you serve others? You get that right, and it will start to build a platform of understanding of what this journey is all about. Love is all there is. There is nothing else. And once you get in tune with that, and once you're on the same page, things start to unfold a lot quicker, a lot more gracefully, and you start not to attach to the things that will make you uncomfortable. Stop branding things as good, stop branding things as bad. Just go, thank you for this experience, and be prepared to move on. There's a lot of people, I'm very fortunate. I'm going through a step 4 at the moment in my step work, or I'm about to start it. And a step 4 is an inventory, and it's an inventory of everything that's happened as a child up until these years. You do each year, and you write down all the things, how that experienced me, and what resentments I hold, because resentments are, again, a case of trauma and not letting go. And what the step work does is it unfolds all that information. I put it all down on paper, and then I read it out, and I consciously hand it over to God. That's the way that the step work works, and anybody that's done it will understand it. But you don't have to be doing step work in order to inventory yourself. I like to inventory myself because on a daily basis, if I notice myself behaving unconsciously, I want to know why. Because again, it's that rubbish in the car analogy. If you continue to ignore it, it will start to build on you, and you'll never let it go, and you'll start to form PCCs. You'll start to form these bad behaviors. You start acting out in the wrong way, which is selfishly, because you feel like you're owed something. For anybody that, that noise in your head, it's like if a kid wants some sweets. If you just ignore the kid, he's going to get louder. He's going to get louder, and he's going to play up. Imagine that as your inner body, as your inner soul, and your inner soulmate, your inner roommate. If you continue when an experience happens, if you don't deal with it and deal with it in the right way, as simply as accepting it and going, thank you for the good and the bad, you'll soon see in 6 months, people do this all the time. You forget because it is a history book. Sometimes you don't forget, but when you don't forget, it's usually because you hold a grudge or a resentment against that particular experience. But in 12 months' time, COVID, we're going to be on to something else. We're just going to attach to it. Why can't we just sit back and go, this is an experience. What can I learn from it? Thank you for this experience. And what is my opportunity here? Where is this going to make me a better, more beautiful human being? And when you get on first name terms with that logic, things just get better. And this isn't just, oh, Paul's just suddenly come out of this and cracked it out of a Christmas cracker information. Everybody has access to this stuff. That's the mad thing. We can go on about it, we can complain about it, we can do this in the hope that just complaining about it and moaning about it and getting it out, there is time for venting, but there's more time for actual self-work, self-exploratory. And my thing to anybody, right? If you're not happy with the way things are going in your life, try this stuff. If you're happy and things couldn't be any better, I'm not saying you need this. One day, I think you'll understand it. But if things ain't going so well for you right now and you think life can be better, why not pick up a book? Why don't sit for 15, 20 minutes and get tuned into your senses? Why not start living life more presently, more consciously? Why not live life only by kindness, compassion, gratitude? Why not do that? Because I'm telling you now, because I'm a walking, talking example of this from somebody who was deeply selfish, that was deeply lost, completely unconscious, that now has a completely new way of life. And it's not driven by money. It's not driven by the relationships, my children, by my business. It's driven by the work that I've done on myself to be able to reach in and access these fantastic, ancient, archaic principles that have changed and transformed my life. So why not?
Amazing, man. Amazing. Amazing. And I think it's really important to recognize that these are timeless principles. You know, people are talking at the minute, you know, life will never be the same after this. And I'm like, really? I think it will. You know, the way we do things may change, but, you know, I've read a lot of spirituality, philosophy. I recently read a lot of Stoicism, you know, written 2,000 years ago, and the problems that they described that they were tackling as humans, you know, they were the same wrapped up in a different wrapper. You know, the way in which they're experiencing it. You know, they were talking about narcissism in one of the things, and, you know, that's become pervasive through social media, but they still had the problem. The human condition has only started to evolve at a very minute level, but we get these opportunities thrown to us to, you know, the earth, I said it this morning, the earth is taking a moment to breathe. You know, the dolphins are coming back in Venice, the satellites pictures from space show that the earth is getting cleaner, and it's just like the earth is breathing, it's given us this space, we're all freaking out, but it's like, hello, you know, the history books have shown that we never evolved from these things, we have not evolved from these things previously. Here's another chance. Here's another crack at the whip. Give it a go, why don't you? You take on some of the principles and learning and try and spread it amongst you. There is no better time for us to try and elevate human consciousness, because I believe one of the reasons why humanity has not had the potential to do it before is it couldn't spread the word quickly enough. Whereas now, in a moment, we can communicate an idea. And, you know, if those things that you spoke about, kindness, love, compassion, at the heart of everything we do, and that's the thing that spreads, my goodness, at the end of this, we will be different and the world will change. But until we actually address, like, the underlying, you know, we're all talking about, oh, we'll all be going digital after. Well, that's not going to change the world, really, is it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, sorry to interrupt, but you're bang on, right? The problem as well with humanity is we keep changing our minds. You know, you've got somebody that will get up and say, well, you know, I want to help the ozone layer. I want to go more green. That are driving a Range Rover around, you know, or, you know, I don't, you know, I've got somebody that used to I know that's taking drugs, and he'd gone 6 weeks and then celebrated by taking drugs. I'm like, you know, I'm just like, you know, at the end of the day, right, we keep changing our minds. The one thing that has shone out for me from what you said was life will never be the same. Well, that's the biggest delusion. If you think we crave either for things to be different or we crave for things to stay the same. Well, we are not in control of that. Everything is constantly changing. We're getting older, our shape, our form, our experiences, the things that happen outside us. That's the beauty of it. And if everything stayed the same, it'd be bloody boring. You know, the point of it is, I keep telling people, and people look at me like I've got 10 heads. You know, I say the word growth. That is the most it's the most easiest way to translate the experiences that we have in life. It's about growth. We encounter challenges as a means to building resilience, to be able to formulate and understand how we can grow as human beings, how we can grow as, and I mean human beings, not as in how can I grow and be, you know, a powerhouse in business, because that's where I've got it wrong. When my motives connect with the bigger picture, things start to get real momentum. And what we've got at the moment, everybody is on the same page. We've never had a better opportunity for the world to unite, including people from, you know, even the terrorists, you know, like these guys are going through the same thing as we're going through. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but there's never been an opportunity for us all to collectively come together as a group and change the world. And we ask daily. Some people pray to God daily. I want the world to be a better, safer, more peaceful place. We got the chance. Things weren't just going to suddenly happen. Sometimes it takes a real I can't get the word out, mate.
Strategic?
Tragedy.
Tragedy, yeah, sorry, yeah.
Oh, my head, I'm gone. It takes a tragedy like this in order for us to unite. You know, things have to happen in order for things to change. And again, if we determine it good and bad, you know, I read a book about death, you know, in terms of passing, and, you know, deep Buddhists, you know, people that believe in Buddhism, that understand the wheel of karmic law, that, you know, we come in and out and we can come back as this, depending on where we are in regards to the paradigm and things like that. You know, the experience of life is just an experience. So when you feel that and when you understand it, you don't take it so seriously. So anything that happens, good or bad, then you don't get connected to, because that's the reason why we've got global anxiety and depression at quite a high rate, is because we don't actually understand. You know, we don't get it yet. So why not start learning how to get it? Because, you know, I've had some serious challenging times with business, with relationships, in terms of people that I work with, as a result of what's happened, financial. But you know what? I've still got everything I ever wanted, which at the minimal, bare bones, is a roof over my head. And even then, you know, I'll find another way. If I lost my house, I'm not scared anymore. It's so nice to not be afraid. If I lost my house, if a family relative, inevitably they pass away, hopefully, like I say, at an older age rather than a younger age. Even if at a younger age, I've got to look at what I'm being taught here. Why is that happening? You know, and I know that I'm not trying to contradict, because people have had terrible experiences, you know, and I'm not going to read off what a terrible experience may look like, but there are terrible experiences. What can we teach others as a result of that terrible experience? Are we giving back from that terrible experience? Because again, we're not one entity living this life on our own. We're a group and a global consciousness of energy doing it together. So unfortunately, what may harm me, or I think harms me as in comparative to my ego, might help somebody else. And I'm cool with that. I'm absolutely cool with that. Whereas before, I'm like, why am I going to help somebody else? Why do I want to lose this, and that in order for somebody else to gain? But if you're consciously aware of the fact that you've helped somebody as a result, or you've taught somebody due to an experience, good or bad, be able to grow as a human being, we're growing collectively. And this isn't bullshit. This is absolute truth, because I see it. And I've only just scratched the surface with what I'm trying to achieve and what I'm learning. And other people now, if we can all learn from taking action now consciously to be able to research spiritualism, to be able to understand conscious connection and conscious awareness, be able to start getting that instruction manual on our spiritual side, and be able to understand how that system works. It's not hard to learn. It may look difficult. You might go, oh, screw that. Think when it says screw that, that's probably your inner roommate. Screw that. That makes me look like a bit of a sissy. That's your inner roommate. That's your ego flaring up. Like, get away from it. And when I say get away from it, don't get into a fight with it. Just be aware with it in your head, laugh at it, then you start to see the separation. People think it's schizophrenia, but you wouldn't have somebody, right, walking down the street. If you saw somebody walking down the street talking to themselves, you go, this guy's mental. But we all do it. We all do it. We just don't do it out loud. So it's just getting in touch with that, mate. So life, of course, will never be the same. It will never be the same. But actually, we are a conscious choice maker on where this goes. We all want stuff now. I want change now. I want things to be better now. And there's a book, Alchemist, right? It says that we all want to live, we all want to seek out our treasure. We all want to seek out our treasure. But we're not prepared to live our destiny in order to find it. We all want it now. We want that treasure now. But we've got to live out our destiny. And this is a long old journey. It's a great ride. Respect it, engage with it, love it, learn from it, inventory on yourself, take time to delve into your more spiritual instruction manual. Start to reach in, understand how these cogs work, or what your cogs are your chakras, and bring to life what is a completely different world for yourself, aside from what I like to call an aesthetic life that I led for a long, long time, which was all about me, not giving a shit about anybody else, and then really embedding yourself in what are deeper, more influential spiritual principles.
Powerful, man. Yes. I think that's a good place for us to end the conversation, because that is the essence, really. I think the intention of what we decided before we can come into this is the message we wanted to share is how to develop that conscious awareness. And we've been on a journey through this conversation, which is giving people insight in terms of your own journey, but also the practices that you do. And there's been some really fascinating insights around how people can use that information right now, but on a deeper level, utilizing these tools to create real transformation in your own ability to be living a life of consciousness and being fully aware and present and consciously creating your own experience of this world. So, Paul, I do want to thank you once more for being part of Elevate Live. What the mission of this entire platform is to elevate humanity, not just for now, but for the future. This is about how do we transform global consciousness? How do we elevate global consciousness? How do we come together? How do we come together and actually create that positive shift within humankind? And it's an honor to have you here again and share your wisdom. I know there'll be people watching both live and on the replay who would like to find out more about you and your work. And I know you've got a community that people can plug into for free. So would you mind just sharing a little bit about how people can connect with you from here?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd seen Teresa message. There's a question here, mate, but I think you might have asked it from Martin Blakemore around meditation. So hopefully I've answered that question for him. So thanks for the question. Teresa, lots of love to you, my darling. Absolutely amazing. I love working with Teresa. She's one of my best customers and friends. So pleasure to have you here.
Paul, there has been a few questions. So if you're with us now still on Zoom, or you're on Facebook Live watching, and whilst Paul is sharing how people can get in touch with you, please type your questions in. If Paul's got time, we'll take the time to go through those. So thanks for sharing those. So Paul, if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about how people can follow up with you from here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I know this is published on LinkedIn, so people probably know me from the HSE Global Series, HSE Network, and HSE Virtual Congresses. We run facilitated health and safety management events and digital communities. And we're bringing a lot of this stuff in because mental health is one of the biggest rises in major incident fatalities. So if you want to get in contact with me from a business perspective, or if you don't just want to natter, or anybody outside of the business community as well, give me an email on paul@HSE, as in health, safety, environmental, globalseries.com. I'm free all the time. I'm offering free mental health coaching, one-on-one as well, with anybody that wants it. So if you're interested in getting in touch, feel free to reach out. The Onion Mental Health Group I created it's about building societies, building networks of people that want to share, be better, share the same opinions, learn from each other, get better and more amicable, different perspectives on life. Use the Onion as that means to reach in and network with other people. That's the Onion Mental Health Group on Facebook. Feel free. Message me, Paul Clarkey in brackets, Clark on Facebook as well, if you want to get me on there. So I'm willing to help anyone, especially at this time when people need a new perspective. That's what I'm here for.
Perfect. And all of those links, by the way, if you're watching through the Elevate Live platform, will be on Paul's speaker page on the Elevate Live platform. they'll be there with his talk as well. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, what's Elevate Live? Well, it's an online festival of ideas. We're going live every single day, 3 to 5 times a day, sharing talks like these, interviews, live classes, all around personal growth, well-being, mindfulness, spirituality, business, finance, relationships, every facet of our lives, really designed to help you grow in each of those really important key areas of our lives. So if you're not already signed up to Elevate Live, I encourage you to come and register. You'll see all the other talks coming up. You just need to go to elevatelive.heysummit.com. That's elevatelive.heysummit.com. You'll be able to see a full schedule of events there, and you can go and click on Paul's profile. You'll find his link to the Onion group, and you'll see his email as well, so you can get in touch. Just before we wrap up, Josh has asked, if you slip out of consciousness, what triggers do you have to stay present?
Yeah, great question. So again, mindfulness is absolutely powerful for things like that. But a tip for me, when I slip out of present-minded awareness or particular conscious awareness, it's because you're in your head. It's about getting out of your head. A really good practice is just to drop into your body consciously. Start with your feet. So plant your feet firm on the ground and feel the weight of your feet going through the ground. And that's earthing you through your lower chakra Muladhara as well. And then basically run yourself from awareness of your feet up through your lower legs, into your upper thighs, into your trunk, into your chest, feeling your heartbeat, and then and then come around your head, and then do what I like to do is just do a luminous line all the way around my body, and that just brings me consciously into the moment. The other thing as well is just using something called an anchor. So an anchor could be, for example, an anchor is a sense, or your breath. So just watching the breath rolling in and the breath rolling out. Just being aware of your breath coming in and your breath coming out. And that just brings your awareness back into your body. And awareness, sometimes doesn't hurt to just look out the window. Take time to take in and drink in what you see, what you hear. It's amazing when you shut off, consciously aware, how much you can hear, the sounds that you can hear, the faintest of dullest of sounds, and it is beautiful. And when you're back in that place, you usually come around like, oh, I'm good now. I forgot about what I was worried about. Let's crack on.
Yeah, very cool. Thank you, Paul. Thanks again, Paul. Thanks to everyone who are watching. Again, do connect with Paul. I've just posted the link there in the Zoom room there to Elevate Live. Connect with Paul there. All the links will be there, and his email address will be added after this. So thank you so much for our attendees here in the Zoom room who have been with us in the VIP lounge watching one-to-one with us. Thanks to everyone on Facebook Live who have been commenting and sharing their thoughts and completely absorbed. Thanks so much, guys. Great talk. So thanks for your feedback, your comments. Really appreciate you being here, and please do tune in for our very next session. Head over to elevatelive.heysummit.com to check out the schedule, and I look forward to sharing some more great content with you soon. Stay blessed, have an amazing afternoon, and thank you for tuning in.